Hello, this is John Cope from Cope Racing Transmissions. I'd like to welcome you back to the CRT channel. If you're watching this from our website, welcome to this tech video on bands.
We're putting the band back together.
I'm just going to have a quick tech video and go over a few things to show you the difference between the different bands for the 727, the 46RE, the 48RE, the 904, and the 518. So we're going to start first off, and all we're going to do is do a little identification and then just show you the difference between the bands. The first one we'll do is the 727 low reverse band. There's only one for all the years that the 727 came out for their low reverse band. As far as how it changed over the years, there's just one. And you will notice that the band is almost identical to the 46RE or the 518 band, except for the 518 band's a little bit larger. And but other than that, the bands are identical. They are not interchangeable. These bands that I have either these relined or I buy them brand new. And the lining on all the low reverse bands are what they call high energy. It's like a light green tint high energy, and it works really good on the low reverse bands. So this is a low reverse 727 band. And like I said before, the 46RE or the 518 band looks almost identical, except it's a little bit larger in diameter. This is what we call in the industry a triple or a double wrap band, because you have one that goes this way and another one that goes this way, and it wraps around the low reverse drum twice. This is a 48RE diesel band. It's also done in the high energy lining, and it can only be used on a 48RE and nothing else. Pretty standard stuff so far. But we're going to get into some good stuff here when it comes to the 727, because there was multiple changes over the years. The first band that Chrysler came out with for the front 727 was a solid band. They ran this band from 1962 to 1970, and all V8s, Slant 6, and Poly 727s, except for Hemi and Six Pack. That is a different band than this. And there's so many times I have people call me and they're like, yeah, I found a Hemi Trans with this Hemi band. This typical solid one wrap 727 front band is not the Hemi band, and I'll show that to you, the Hemi band, to you in a little bit. Chrysler ran this band all the way up till 1970. In 1971, they changed the band to a flex band. It's the same width, same diameter, except it is now a flex band. And Chrysler used this band in 727s almost all the way up to the 90s. And then in the 90s, the 46RE, the 46RH, the 48RE, the 47s all had this flex band. Now you can see the difference between the 727 flex band and the 46/48RE flex band is the same diameter, it's the same width, but they went with these big oil relief grooves. The 727 band has oil relief groove right down the center with just a little hole to come out with. I think these are better. These work just fine in any street application. I mean, Chrysler put this band in all diesels that had a 48RE and a 47. But if I had to pick the difference between this band with the wide grooves and this band, I would take this one. So now the Hemi band is huge. You can see the difference between the solid band and the Hemi band. And the Hemi band is is not a double wrap, but it has these big slots in it, and this is what requires the 5.0 lever. That's why Chrysler came out with the 5.0 lever. This only came in 426 Hemi cars and 6-pack cars. That was it. This band will not fit a stock drum of a wedge, so you can only use this on a 426 Hemi or a 446 pack. There are brand new aftermarket bands that are in a solid application. So if you want to go back to that solid band that Chrysler had, there are aftermarket bands. This is the aftermarket band. This is the Chrysler band. The aftermarket band is 250 thousandths wider than the stock Chrysler band that came out from 62 to 70 and will fit all 727s, 46, 7, and 8 RE transmissions without a drum change. You can use this on a stock drum. You can use this on a billet drum. The thicker width of the band it's 250 thousandths thicker, will fit on both the stock bands and the Hemi bands. I said that wrong. They will fit both on a stock drum or a billet drum. I got plenty of the aftermarket bands in stock. There's no core charge on the brand new aftermarket band. There are core charges on the front solid band. Is the highest core charge. I don't know off the top of my head what it is. I don't want to say because things change all the time. So there's one core charge for flex. There's another core charge for solid. And of course, like anything else in the world, that Hemi has got its own core charge. There's one more band.
We'll be here all night. You see, we're the band.
Solid band, 62 to 70. The flex band was 1971 up until, I believe, the 90s or the late 80s. The same flex band, but with larger oil relief grooves. They used this all the way up to 2007. There is one band that I have a lot of that I don't rely on, and they're the semi-ridge band. I don't think Chrysler ever did these. I'm not sure if an older company like Fairbanks or B&M come out with this band. It's like a half flex, half solid. It's not as thick as the Chrysler solid bands, and it has these welded on anchors like the flex bands do, where the solid bands are not welded. They are truly solid. So people send me these sometimes as a core. I won't accept these semi-ridge bands as a core, no matter if you bought a flex band from us or if you bought a solid band. I don't reuse them. The anchors don't fit on them all that great. So I did at the beginning years and years ago, and now they're just piling up on me. So you're probably asking, I'm like, okay, John, now that we see all the different bands that they make for the 727, especially for the front, which one do I use? Do I use the solid one? Do I use the aftermarket solid one? Do I use the early flex band or the late flex band? It's preference. I usually run, like if you got street cars, anything up to 500 horsepower, any of these bands would be fine. These early bands, the flex bands without the big grooves in them, along with, let's do it this way, along with the Chrysler solid band, they're just getting hard to find. They quit making those in the 80s. They quit making this band in 1970. So I have bands because I take them out of transmissions and I send them down to get relined. So these late model flex bands with the big grooves in it have become popular because they've used them all the way up to 2007. I can buy these brand new. And so a lot of times I will put these in even in a 500 to 600 horsepower kit and not have any problems with them. I mean, Chrysler put them behind the diesel transmissions all the way to 07. The new solid band, the aftermarket solid band, that's 250 thousandths wider than stock, does not have a band core because it's sold as a brand new part. So it's a little bit more. It's almost as much as the Chrysler band with the band core. However, if you send me the band back, I give you a refund on the core, as long as I'm getting a good band back. Probably your best bang for the buck is getting the brand new band. The brand new aftermarket band is a good choice for gas, for diesel, it doesn't matter. And I can get these in most of the time in red lining. So the other bands I get, even though this one's in red lining, this one's red, and this one is a dark brown or almost a black color. This is what they call a black carbon. I'll tell you the deal with the lining. For the longest time, I was using the same guy in the South, and he relined my bands for years and years and years, over 20 years. And I never had a problem. And most of the time, I always did the bands in red lining. And the reason why I did it in red lining is because I wanted to make it simple to keep an inventory. If you got brown lining, which is stock, Kevlar lining, they got a green lining, they got a red lining, and not only do you have to keep them all in different linings, you got to keep them in different years. It just got to be too hard to keep the bands in stock. So I decided a long time ago I was going to leave all my bands to be red. So my low reverse bands were in red lining. My front bands were in red lining for both 727 and 904. And that worked great for years until the COVID hit. And after the COVID hit, I couldn't get bands for quite a long time, and I was running really thin on getting bands relined. And the very first batch that I sent back down to my Southern connection to get relined not only took forever because they didn't have a full crew as they did before the COVID, the linings were different. It was red, but after seeing their bands for 20 years and the first batch that came back, I called them. I'm like, is this correct? And they assured me that it was, and I didn't have any issues, but it just didn't look the same. Call it superstitious. I decided to look for another liner, another company to do band lining. So I did find one, and I've been using them for about 2 or 3 years now. Well, about two and a half years. It was all post-COVID. And they tell me, and they swear by this, that the black lining, the black carbon lining for the fronts are the best, and the higher energies for the low reverse are the best. Now, I have used high energy lining before on clutches for years and years and never had a problem with that. So I'm perfectly fine with that. But they seem not to like red lining for whatever reason. I personally used it for so long, I never had a problem with it. So the way my bands are sold nowadays, and this video was taped in April of 2023. So any band that you'd get from me, if you got the low reverse bands, they're green, and that's high energy. That is a performance lining. All the front bands except for the brand new solid band. The brand new solid band is going to come in red lining. That's how I get it. All my other front bands are going to come in black carbon, unless it's a new old stock. Like this band is, you know, there's probably a leftover band from a few years ago that is still red. Same with this band. It's still red. And I ran red bands forever and used them in all my transmissions forever, and I don't have a problem with them. But I'm dealing with a different company. They do things a little bit different, and so I really don't have a problem with them, and I've been using them, and so far everything's fine. So you will see the bands. Mostly I listed them on my website now. If you look, it doesn't designate which lining it is, and I kind of did that on purpose because I lost a little confidence of how the reds were turning out, the red lines. I just didn't like the look of them. I mean, it was just different. And it wasn't nothing bad. I didn't find any imperfections. It was just different. And after seeing those bands lined one way for all those 20-some years, now it's different after COVID. It was just, I don't know, red flag, superstitious, call what you want. So I list the bands in my paper catalog. Any order that you place with us, you will get a paper catalog. This is the 2023 catalog, 2024. And it's the first catalog that doesn't have transmissions in it, which kind of feels weird, but being a smaller shop and not having a big crew and whatnot, we're just doing manufacturing of parts. Place an order, get a catalog. They just came out. Back to the bands. I would say the new band is probably your best bet. It's a little more. It's not a 50-year-old band. It hasn't been realigned 2 or 3 times, and I sell a lot of them. You buy any of these other bands, the Flex band early and late, and the solid band of Chrysler, there's a cord charge on it, and I have to have the cords back, otherwise I can't sell bands to people. So, that is pretty much the deal on 727 bands. There's not much more on the 904s. We'll take care of you 904 guys too. As far as the lining concerned, it's the same way. The low reverse bands are done in the green high energy lining, and the front bands are done in the black carbon lining. I've been using these A500 bands. They are a semi-ridge, and I really like these. I do a little welding reinforcement on those. And they're wider than the stock bands. They're wider than the stock solid bands. These are just as wide as old cop car taxi cab bands they had in the very few and select 904s. So, best bang for the buck, without a doubt, when it comes to 904s, is this semi-ridged and black carbon lining. I do have a lot of these solid bands for the 904s, and ever since I came out with this band, I don't think I've relined solid bands for a 904 in 6-7 years now. They're just collecting dust. I probably got about 50 of them in a parts room, just sitting around collecting dust. So basically, that's the deal on the bands, the lining of the bands, the type of bands. And I think that's about it. So if you got any questions about the bands, you go ahead and ask me in the comments below. I usually am really good about answering those comments, replying to those comments. If you're at our website, you can go ahead and place these online. You can order these online 24/7. The website is always open. It never closes. And when you do place an order, you will get a free paper catalog on top of that. I hope you enjoyed this video on the bands. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and share to the other Mopar guys. If you're watching on this through our website, go ahead and buy something. So, thanks much. We'll catch you on the next one. Mopar to ya.
We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way.
We're on a mission from God.